Welcome back, entrepreneurs. We have the actual book, Josh. It's actually finally out now. So if you've been following this series, you know that we've been saying go into the description to grab a copy of your book. Now's that time. You want to grab a copy of 100 Myths for Entrepreneurs versus the Chainsaw. Have you ever seen any of Josh's live events? You always put on the chainsaw, right, Josh?
We got to get rid of those myths, Desmond. So a chainsaw is the best tool to get rid of those myths.
That's right. Hack those down. So if you have already been following the series and you do know what we're talking about, fantastic. Thank you so much for subscribing and following these videos. But if you haven't, you might want to just quickly subscribe right now so you don't miss. We've got 100 myths. If you're an entrepreneur, a business owner, or perhaps considering to be one, you definitely want to check out all these videos first before making a decision if you should start a business or not. But today, the actual title for today's video is Work-Life Balance for Entrepreneurs. Now, Josh, when we talk to entrepreneurs all the time, we always get this, the most common question is work-life balance, right? You know, can I build a business, and then how do I take care of my family? Can I have any hobbies? You know, I want to, maybe I have a job and I want to do this side hustle. Is it possible? So how can we address that issue? What did you put here in chapter, myth number 9?
Well, unfortunately, work-life balance is probably the wrong term.
Okay.
We're talking more about work-life trade-offs.
Trade-offs, okay, interesting.
Trade-offs.
Yep.
A lot of entrepreneurs think that when they go into business that suddenly they're going to get better work-life balance. They went from a job where they're working 30 or 40 hours a week and somehow they're going to flick a switch and everyone's going to have a burning desire to pay them the next day, and they're somehow going to be able to have this great work-life balance.
Right, the laptop lifestyle, the 4-hour work week, right? Yep.
Yeah. In reality, what actually tends to work is work-life trade-offs, right?
Okay.
So there are some things that, you shouldn't just try to balance, but you should get rid of in favor for other things that are more important to you.
Okay, can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
I mean, if you're a business owner with a family, you're probably not going to reduce the time that's necessary to maintain good relations with your family, build relationships with your kid and your partner. I mean, that's not going to happen, right? But maybe you play beer league hockey, slow pitch softball, maybe that's going to go away, right? Maybe that's not necessary. Maybe that's standing in the way of your goals.
What about sports? Like, just to stay healthy. I mean, if it's part of you staying in a healthy state so that you can perform better.
It's okay, but imagine if you're playing 3 or 4 sports.
Right. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
2 or 3 teams, right? It's not about balancing those. Sometimes it's about eliminating them, right?
Okay.
Do you want $1 million business, right? And maybe have one hobby?
Right.
Or do you want to have a business that's on the brink and a home life that's also stressful and still be playing 2 or 3 hobbies, right?
I gotcha.
It's about work-life trade-offs.
And I know a lot of guys, we sometimes pour ourselves into a garage, for example, fixing up that fixer-upper, that antique. It helps us to think, right? It's quiet time, man cave time. What about that?
It can be, right? You just got to take a realistic inventory of the number of things in your life that are taking your time, right?
Got it. Okay.
Being an entrepreneur requires a tremendous level of focus, right? It's not that entrepreneurs are better or more talented than other people. They just tend to have a more clear focus on fewer goals, right? And that, it's like that magnifying glass with the sun. They just focus it on a specific area longer and longer, and eventually the fire starts, right?
Makes sense.
Whereas if they're spreading that focus on, over many different goals, they're unlikely to be successful at any of them, right?
Understood.
And we have to be realistic as, as humans, we only actually have a certain amount of good decisions, a certain amount of focus to go around. If we're spreading that focus on, a big variety of hobbies, right? It's going to detract from the focus that we have on our business, right? It's going to detract from the focus that we're able to have on our family.
Which is also like Gary Keller in his book, One Thing, right? He talks a lot about that one thing. Stay focused.
One thing, right? And so that tends to be the key, right? It's not that you can't do this, all right? That's not what I'm saying, right? But you're probably going to have to do fewer things than you imagine, especially in the earlier stages of your business, where you don't have that time freedom, financial freedom, you don't have that bigger support team helping you out on the back end either.
You haven't built the system where you could take a time off and go on a vacation, and you've got redundancies and people and SOPs and everything in place, correct?
That's right, that's right.
Okay. Now, Josh, I'm going to read a quote from the book here itself, guys. You can, this is actually from Steve Jobs. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary. Steve Jobs. Now, in here as well too, you have this that your business will not affect your personal life. That 72% of entrepreneurs report mental health issues. Wow.
It's huge, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be a tremendous amount of outside pressure on this too, because what I've just said is you reduce the number of your hobbies is not a popular choice.
No, yeah. People use that to relax,
If we were taking a survey right now, the survey would say I'm wrong, right?
Right.
But you have to remember, only 1 in 5,000 people build $1 million business.
Right.
If you ran your business based on surveys, you'd be one of the other 4,999 people, like every single time, right?
Yep.
You have to do the things that feel unnatural, right? You have to take a different path if you're trying to do it, right? Now, the level of extreme that you want to go to is up to you, right?
Right.
But you're going to have, a narrower focus, right?
Yes.
Maybe you go from 3 hobbies to 2, or 5 hobbies to 3, right?
Yes.
Or 2 hobbies to 1, or 1 hobby to 0.
Right.
Like this happens.
And we're not saying give up your hobbies forever, but maybe for the first 1, 2, how many years, Josh? 5, 10?
2, 3. There's no predetermined, right?
Yeah.
I would say most businesses are going to get there sometime within the first 10 years, right?
Correct.
If they're very serious about it.
So it should be motivation for you to build a business and get to that level so that you can get your hobbies back, correct?
Exactly, right? And you don't want to go to the point where life is not enjoyable anymore either, right?
Right.
But then there's another element of this too, where there's an element of guilt.
Okay.
People tell this, that should feel unnatural. There's a certain percentage of the population that's out there that they're actually only happy in that pursuit of excellence.
Right, yep.
So, society is telling us that we should have this well-rounded life and be tackling these 5 things.
Yep.
And they're relatively ordinary at those 5 things, right? And then they feel something that's missing, right? And they look around and society will tell them, well, get a 6th thing. When in reality, if they were hammering at one thing, that's what lights them on fire, right?
Right.
That's what Steve Jobs was talking about, right?
Makes a lot of sense, yeah.
Not living someone else's dogma, right? I mean, and that was the maniacal extreme of it, right? Where he had nothing else other than his vision, and voila, we get an iPhone out of that, a world-changing device, right? But the lesson here is that a greater focus on fewer things tends to elicit better results, and sometimes, for some people, they're actually going to be happier, despite what conventional wisdom says, despite what even the majority might have, right?
Right.
Remember, life is generally a bell curve, right?
Yes.
Most people will want, a rounded amount of things, right?
Yes.
There are people at the tail ends of that bell curve.
Yes.
They're actually not going to be happy doing that, right?
Right.
And it's hard when I start explaining this to people, right?
Yeah, yeah.
We post stuff online, on Instagram stuff. We talk about work-life balance and hours, and you see the haters out there saying that life is terrible. And they're right for them.
Yes.
They don't actually realize that some people, they're just not wired that way, right?
Correct.
Yeah. There are a certain number of people who are truly unhappy being ordinary in a bunch of different things.
I would rather be busy and building something and feeling fulfilled than to, be bored or stuck in mundane, average mediocrity.
That's right. And some people have the awareness to figure this out.
Yes.
Other people are completely lost. They're feeling that something's missing. They're listening to this popular wisdom, right? Or the popular opinion, and they don't realize that other people have found what they're looking for by doing something that's not popular.
Right. That's true. That's very true. So, Josh, what are some action steps that an entrepreneur, you always give lots of advice in your videos. In fact, you always give action tips. So if you haven't already checked out some of the other videos in the series here, go back and check them out, because we actually give action steps with each of these videos, something that you can implement right away. So the action word here is to implement something from the videos. Josh, what would be your advice here when we're talking about work-life balance for entrepreneurs? what are maybe, if someone was sitting down and reflecting after this video, what are 3 things they could do right away?
Reflect on the things that you're spending your time on, right?
Okay.
And try to realistically allocate how much time you're spending on them. And then ask yourself, if I could be twice as good in this area, maybe that's business, maybe that's your family life, maybe it's a set extracurricular activity. If I could be twice as good here, but I would have to eliminate this, would I be happier? If yes, get rid of that, right?
Okay.
Get rid of that thing and then start plotting your life out on a calendar that excludes that thing, right?
Yeah.
So you're still allocating time for family. You're still allocating time for the hobbies that you want to keep. But the other items that you don't want to keep, they're no longer there. There's more time for the things that are going to make a bigger difference in your life and hopefully give you a bigger sense of fulfillment.
Right. Now, in my case, Josh, I never used to play golf, but I play golf now with my kids and family, right? My wife and kids, we play golf, and that's our summer hobby, one of the summer hobbies. The other one is the wintertime, we go snowboarding as a family together. So I get the physical exercise and it's personal family. I'm investing the time in the family time. Is there anything wrong with that? That's part of the work-life balance. For me, I go through the one thing, or even Chris Bailey's productivity project, where I get knocked out 3 major things in a day and I feel productive. I hit all the priorities there. Okay, I don't feel guilty about going snowboarding with the family because that's also an investment of time. Is that correct?
If you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone, you know what I mean? You're doing a hobby and utilizing it to spend time with your kids as well, right? So
and health as well. So it's
and health.
3 birds with
3
1 stone.
things, right? I mean, that's an excellent use of time, as opposed to maybe you had another hobby previously where
sitting at the bar drinking beer with my friends.
You like doing it, right? And maybe it was a little bit fun, but would you rather have twice the relationship with your kid or that still kind of casual relationship with those drinking buddies?
No, I'd easily my wife and kids any day. Hands down. All right, so if you enjoyed this video, comment, subscribe, like, get a copy of the book. Let us know in the comments so that we can give you a shout out in the next video, and we'll see you in the next video.